All right, so in this week's guitar lesson, I'm doing a collaboration with my buddy Quist. He and I have done these in the past, and I always look forward to doing them with him because he's such a great musician. He's a great guitar player, songwriter, and he writes these fantastic jam tracks. And so if you're ever looking for a specific type of jam track in a certain key or certain style, you should check out his work. I've got links in the description below to his YouTube channel and his Spotify channel. But Quist is doing a blues month this month. As I'm recording this, we're in the month of December 2022. Not that that matters, but anyway. But he's asked a few different guest artists to sort of play lead on top of his jam tracks, and so he asked me to do it for this week. And so I was happy to do it. I always love playing over his stuff. And so what I played in the intro was his jam track and just me playing on top of it, me improvising a lead on top of that. And that's what we're going to break down in this video. So we're going to break all of that down note for note. I'll show you how to play it all, and I'll also give you the context behind it so that you're not just memorizing licks. You have these licks that you can apply to other things, and that's really the value add in this lesson. So I've got this split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half of what I played. If you'd like to watch the second half, download the MP3 jam track and also access the on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive. You can get all of those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP496. Okay, so let me just mention my tone. Somebody will ask about it if I don't. By the way, my tone is never, I don't usually go there in terms of tone and setting it up and explaining it because there's so many parameters and variables when it comes to tone. You know, what amp are you using? Are you using pedals and all that stuff? I'm not using any of that. I'm using a Kemper Profiler, which is like an amp emulator basically. But you can get this exact sound by having whatever kind of setup that you have. Just add some overdrive, add some reverb, and that's it. And then back off the volume on your guitar. That's the key, is that volume thing. So if I turn my volume all the way up, there's quite a bit of growl. It's pretty heavy. Now I could work with that. But if I back off it a little bit, I get still a little bit of overdrive, which you want, but it's a little more mellow and it sounds more authentic blues to me, is to take your overdrive. You can crank it up on your amp a little bit. You don't want crunch though. You don't want heavy metal or death metal or anything. Just sort of like a good overdrive where it sounds breaking up, and then back off the guitar the volume on your guitar. And the reason you want to do that is you got a little extra room to push it, especially if you're playing live. I always love that. I never go full volume ever, because if you're all the way up, it's just I feel panicked, like I have nowhere else to go. So anyway, that's what I'm doing for tone. Now this song is played in the key of E. It's a basic 12-bar blues, very simple, slow blues. 3 chords. We have an E chord, an A chord, and a B chord that we're going to be playing over. Let me go ahead and play the first little phrase. We can listen to that, get the sound in our head, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so what I was doing there was really a call and response. So the first part, the call, goes like that, and then the response to that goes. Then we go back to the call, and then another response. It's a typical blues kind of format. You play a phrase, you respond to that. You play the same phrase, you respond to that in a different way, and you can keep that formula going. That's something that you hear quite a bit in the blues. So the call is a rhythm. It's a very simple rhythm. I'm playing an E chord in first position, the good old cowboy chord, E chord that you already know how to play. And I'm playing it like this. So there's these accents that are happening, these upstrokes I'm doing, I guess, with my right hand. And those upstrokes come in on the and of 1 and on the 3. So for those of you that like to count things in and get very precise, you'd be counting this in like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. That's where you would come in on those upstrokes for that rhythm part. It's a rhythm that you've heard before. You've heard that kind of thing in slow blues. You've heard it in fast blues. You don't want to be so tied to counting things in. In the beginning, it's okay, and that's fine to do. But over time, as you become a better musician and more comfortable musician, that's probably the better way to say it, you won't need to count that. And you just feel it. You'll start to feel that kind of thing. Take your head out of it and start to feel it. So that's the call, super easy to play. Then the response to that, let's look at this. I'm sliding up to the 4th fret 3rd string, and I'm picking that with my pick, and then I'm plucking with my ring finger on the open 1 string. So it's like this. Now you don't have to do that's considered hybrid picking, when you pick on a string and then you use a finger on another string. I like to do that because I feel I'm more accurate. If I can just set my hand here and keep it in position, you can see how little movement is happening with my right hand versus going like this. There's a lot more movement and a lot more room for error. And so that's the only reason that I do it. But either way is fine. But let's talk about where these notes are coming from. What is this? I was thinking about chord shapes. This goes back to the cage system. With the cage system, we have an E chord here. We have an E chord up here using the C shape. This is using the E shape. This is using the C shape. And actually, to make this easy, we can just look at this little triad here. That'd be like taking your D chord and just sliding it up 2 frets. You can think of it that way. And that would be your E, if you play it in this position. This note, that 4th fret 3rd string, is the note I'm sliding up to. Now it could have came up and hit this note on the 1st string. And that would have worked too, because obviously that's in the chord. But I like to take advantage, when I'm playing in the key of E, I like to use that open E string. It's an E, so it's gonna always work. And so I come back to that, and there's gonna be a couple other spots as we play this lead where I'm gonna take advantage of that open E string. But this is just a good example of a use for it. It's almost got a kind of a country banjo roll. So I did 3 of them, and then I came down here to the 2nd fret 3rd string, and then watch this. So we go 1st fret, and then down to the 2nd fret 4th string. So on the 3rd string we have 2, 1. Now this doesn't seem like much, but I find this little phrase fascinating because I hear it in blues a lot, and it depends on the artist and obviously the context of the song. But if you're playing and you want that major sound, you get this because, or you do that because you're hitting that major 3rd in the chord. Now if I did this, that's the minor 3rd. So you can think minor pentatonic scale, right? But if you come to that note, you're playing the major 3rd, and it just colors your blues in a different way. I actually learned this from, I think it was the North Mississippi All-Stars. It was something that they were doing in that first album of theirs, which I'm just still a huge fan of. But there was one song in particular where that little major 3rd little lick, as opposed to the thing everybody would do, right? It seems like more people go for that minor sound, but you don't have to. Even though it's blues, you can go for that major. All right, so now we're going back to the same call, and actually I didn't mention this the first time through, but on that call, in between those upstrokes, I'm also playing the bottom part of the chord, actually just the low E string, that 6th string. You can kind of work those in between your upstrokes. Now the next phrase was, and so I came up to this same position that we talked about. So some of this is going to look very familiar. And what I'm doing is I'm making this little shape here. Let's just start with that. Now this shape should look familiar. If you look at it, it should feel familiar. And that's because as you learn your first position chords, you probably learned a D chord like this, and then you probably at some point learned a D7 chord, which looks like this, right? And if you look at that shape is used all throughout the fretboard. We're always kind of coming back to this shape. If you take that D7 shape and you slide it up 2 frets, you're playing an E7. And so when I was playing that little Robert Johnson kind of thing, that's where that comes from, is that shape there. And I was just really alternating between the 3rd string and the 1st string. And again, I was hybrid picking that. So picking on the 3rd string, plucking on the 1st string. And it's okay if you hit the 2nd string as well. Actually, I think the first 2 times I just went like this, and then I kind of started hitting strings 1 and 2. Then the song goes to the A chord, and I went. Let's look at that. So I went. So I kept my ring finger down on the fretboard. These other 2 fingers come off the fretboard, so you slide everything down. So you slide your whole hand down. Your ring finger is now on the 3rd fret, 1st string. And we're going to bar the first 4 strings on the 2nd fret and play this, which is an A7, because the song goes to the 4 chord, which is your A. So you have. I hit that twice, then I took my ring finger off and played just the top 3 strings on the 2nd fret, and then open top 3 strings. So you have. Now what is that? Well, that's an A7 chord. That's an A6 chord. When I take that off, that's an A9 chord if I'm just playing the top 3 strings. So you have A7, A6, A9. And I played it like this. So I went back to the A6. All down strokes with the right hand. And then watch this. There was this lick that goes. So that's a minor pentatonic scale that gets us right back into our E chord. It's an E minor pentatonic scale. So I'm staying in the key of the song as I play that minor pentatonic scale. Even though we're still technically over the A portion of the song, I just went back and got ahead of where I needed to be, and that's something that happens all the time. You know you're going to the E chord, so just go ahead and play a lick from the chord that you're going to. And I'm playing the E minor pentatonic. So this little lick is easy to play, but it's the thing that makes it sound good is all the little nuance, the little things. So the notes are we're going from the 3rd fret 1st string. We're going to play open, and then we're going to go 3rd fret 2nd string, open on the 2nd string. So. And then we're going to do a quick slide from the 3rd to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. And then watch this. A little hammer on to the 1st fret 3rd string. And then upstroke on strings 1 and 2. Now, the one thing I forgot to mention is when you hit this 3rd fret 1st string, the first note in this phrase, we're going to push that sharp a little bit. And then play the lick like that. Now what makes that lick are these little things, like the pushing that sharp. If I just play it straight, that seems kind of flat. It's like, it's like a flat drinking a Coke that's flat or a beer that's flat. Versus that one's got a little bit of a kick to it. That's what you want. You want it to come alive. And so adding a little bit of inflection by bending like that. And do a little slide there. That little slide, and going from that blue note, sliding down into the pentatonic, it adds a human voice quality. And then a little hammer on, that's another inflection. And then you do your upstroke. And then there's 2 bends that happen on this 2nd fret 3rd string. So we're going to do a little hammer-on pull-off kind of thing. You hear that a lot. I got that from Hendrix. So we're going to do that 2nd fret 3rd string, half bends, then play the 2nd fret 3rd string without the bend, and then there's your little hammer-on thing. Now, anytime you're playing this E chord, you can do that. Right? That little, what do you call that? A trill? I don't know. There's a word for that. But that's what it is. It's just you pick it once, and then you can just do that as long as you want. And you can do that anytime you're using this E shape. So if I was playing a G chord, very common lick that you'll hear in the blues. So you have. Now I'm just gonna make the E chord and play 4th string, 6th string, hit strings 1 and 2. just playing the notes of the chord. All right, so now the song goes to the 5 chord, which is our B chord. And I switched gears at this point and was thinking about the B minor pentatonic scale. I was thinking about pattern 4 of your B minor pentatonic scale, just because it's still in the same neighborhood as where we are. I didn't think about playing a B up here, using the E shape. I thought about what's the nearest B neighborhood I have. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I have my B minor pentatonic scale, pattern 4 right here. So let's look at this lick. We're going to put our middle finger on the 3rd fret 2nd string, index finger on the 2nd fret 1st string. And you do a half bend, just a partial bend on that 3rd fret 2nd string. And then you come up to that 2nd fret, and then you hit this note. Now this note is not technically in your minor pentatonic scale. We'll save that for another discussion. But you can use it. So that would be 4th fret 1st string. And then you come back to that 2nd fret 1st string, and then back to the 3rd fret 2nd string. So even if you get nothing else, walk away with this lick. That lick is so blues, man. This is like classic blues. And just connect it to your pattern 4 minor pentatonic scale. That's the easiest way. All you're playing are these 2 notes out of it. And it's pushing that note a little bit sharp. And you'll hear it, if we're playing it in E, it'd be. There's that note that I said is not in the minor pentatonic scale. Actually, we're going to use this same lick at the end of part 2. We're going to use a lick like that. But anyway, we're doing it over B. After this, we're going to come down to the 4th fret and play 3, 4, strings 3 and 4. And then 2nd fret 3rd string. And then after that, watch this. A quick slide with my ring finger from the 4th fret down to the 2nd fret, open 4th string, and then 2nd fret 5th string. So all together, if we play that from the beginning of that lick, and it's a series of triplets. Now watch this. So after we get down to this note, we're going to play the open 5th string, open 6th string, slide up to the 4th fret on the 6th string, and then play an A power chord, because the song at that point goes to the A chord. So all together, let's play that lick. I have no idea where that came from. That's just a combination of things I've learned through the years, but I love that. That's the best part of it, in my opinion. And then to conclude this, we go back to that E. And so while after I play that A power chord, I'm going to come up here and do a hammer-on between the 3rd fret and the 4th fret on the 5th string and play that note. I'm keeping my A power chord. I'm keeping my A bar the whole time. So I'm going back to the 2nd fret 4th string. And now watch this. There's a half bend there on the 4th fret 4th string, release, and then we're coming down to the 2nd fret, 4th fret 5th string, back to the 2nd fret 4th string, and then that low E string, that open 6th string. And then the classic blues walk down. And actually, there's a little twist on it, but we go back to that D7 shape that I talked about a minute ago. We slide that up 2 frets, so we're into this E7 position. And when you're playing this, you can go 3, 1, 3. You can walk that down. Just walk it down each time until you get to your E chord. That's the classic way to do it. Another variation on it, which I got from Robert Johnson. You can do that, so you can lift your ring finger and hit that open 1 string again, taking advantage of that open E string. I think that sounds cool. and then put it back down, and then back to your E chord. Lots of different ways you can work that little walk down, especially when you start thinking about taking advantage of your open 1 string. There's another way to do it, playing strings 3 and 2 with that open 1 string. Or you could just walk that 3rd string down and leave strings 2 and 1 open. More of a country sound. And then walked it up, open, 1st, and then the 2nd fret on the 5th string. All right, well, that wraps up this part 1 video. We'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the second half. So come join us at activemelody.com. Remember, it's weekly lessons page EP496. That's where you can find the part 2 to this video. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would encourage you to just hit the subscribe button and the alert bell. That way you can be notified when I put out new lessons, which I do all the time. All right, we'll see you in the next part.